Chairperson, through you to the Minister, on the issue of comprehension of pupils until grade 4, I think until 10 years old. I see that the plans that the department has presented to the committee, but I'm particularly worried about implementation and how they will be able to monitor it, because we're of the view that there was no piloting program, right? So there is no evidence-based analysis from the department, or the department has, that shows that this particular interventions that they're putting in place will prove to be fruitful in the long run and will give them the required result of bettering comprehension as a very important aspect. What is the training of staff members and the outcomes of the readiness to carry through the system? And how will it be done, and by when will it be done? So there's many open gaps that are part of this particular program the department has presented, and I think they should be able to appraise us properly on how they will be able to implement this, on their capacity to implement this, and if they do have piloting program, and if they don't, when that piloting program will commence. Because I think the time to just present boardroom interventions that do not have a real life impact on the ground should honestly not be allowed from the department at such a high level. And an example of this, Chairperson, I'll make even examples on other parts as well. We should be able to hold the Department of Basic Education accountable as much as we hold other departments accountable, especially those that deal with vulnerable peoples, like for the Department of Health and Social Development. So they should be able to say, on this particular program, we carried out the piloting program in the year 2023, and these were the results of how how the program is going to have impact in these particular districts, in these particular provinces, and what the impact will be in different geographic spaces, right? And that is what is a vacuum in the current presentation of the department. If they can appraise us on that particular aspect, we would be very grateful. And secondly, through you, Chairperson, Minister, there is not enough support for sexual assault victims in the department. We say this because we are seeing young girls from the age of 10 years old who come into your classrooms with pregnancies. And the Commission of Gender Equity released the report to say that majority, if not all, of these cases of pregnancy of children are actually because of statutory rape. But there is no support provided by the department to these children that is tangible and that also is geared towards offering them justice. And we are holding the department accountable because they are responsible to a very large extent of these children. They are very vulnerable, and majority of them are, because we know the statistics, 60% of children who are sexually assaulted by people that they know. So these are uncles, these are fathers, these are people who live with them in the home, they are caretakers, they are guardians, who then take care of these same children, but they are not supported and taken through resourceful justice in the interest of the child. And we want to find out, how does the department plan on firstly implementing the recommendations by the CGE? Because the CGE did say that with these pregnancy cases that are reported to the department or that happen in the basic education department should be encountered as sexual assault cases. Is the department facilitating processes of opening sexual assault cases through the SAPS? What is the relationship between the SAPS and the basic education department in dealing with these particular issues? And I think the previous member, Honorable Letitia, spoke about social services and social support for these particular students. And this is across the board, right? So it's not just sexual assault pupils, but I'm particularly asking about sexual assault pupils that are the pupils of the basic department, basic education department. And thirdly, there was an incident at Soshanguve that saw a young girl being raped by the security. And it raises many questions on how the department is carrying through the vetting processes of different support staff in the institutions, in the facilities. How do you resolve these particular red flags? Because in other cases, you find that these people are actually part of the CPF, the Community Protection Forum, but they are not necessarily vetted by the Department of Basic Education. And isn't that probing us in the direction of insourcing all general staff in the facilities so the department can go through thorough processes? Because we're talking about the safety of children here. And yet there are facilities and institutions where the department is not in the know on who these people are that take care and are said to be protecting the children, and cannot vet them, and can be able to come out later on and say, no, we didn't know that this person was actually convicted 10 years ago of sexual assault cases, but that same person is standing at the gate and protecting the children in the same facilities that you are responsible for. How do you plan on reconciling this particular thing and the issue of ensuring that each and every staff member on your facilities, that you are able to account for them, that they've gone through vetting processes, and that they are safe enough? Because we can't necessarily always discount the possibilities of abuse, right? But in the instances that we are able to, especially in the Department of Basic Education, and this should be done thoroughly. And fourthly, on the issues of disabilities, Chairperson, through you, it's very disheartening to hear that the department doesn't have precise information on what happens to the drop or to the failure of retention of pupils with disabilities. The department at this level, at national level, cannot be allowed to come to Parliament, to come to a committee and report that, in inverted commas, maybe they went to TVETs. It's absolutely unacceptable. And this is also the case that we raised to the Department of Health as well, to say when your patients get lost, there should be an indicator in your APP that shows how do you get to the people that you no longer see in your classrooms, what happened to them, and be able to report it. There must be a system in place at the beginning of each year and at the end of each year that is able to take recount of the pupils that are in your responsibility, that you are accountable for, especially in the case that they have disabilities. These are the most vulnerable in our societies, the most vulnerable. And to a very large extent, the Department of Basic Education should be able to probe in the instances that their learners are no longer in classrooms, and these are learners with disabilities. And on the issue of special needs, Chairperson, through you again, there aren't enough schools. And we need to hear more on how the department plans to resolve this in the current year. How many more schools are we building that are particularly geared towards catering for special needs? And in the Eastern Cape in particular, I know, for instance, in the Kokama and the Kucha region, there aren't special needs schools. And there's a particular case that we raised to the department, Eka Esetu, who was staying at home. He was 12 years old, staying at home for months and months on end. We kept asking the department, please take this child to school, please take. And unfortunately, he died in a fire because he couldn't get out of the house when his father went to go get bread. So these are the dire consequences of not having goal for that cater for special needs. And I'm not saying this to be able to provoke the department. No. Because in actual fact, my son is actually in a public school for special needs, because after a lot of analysis and gathering information and all that, we found that it was one of the best schools in the vicinity, right? So we are saying this from the perspective of knowing that in many districts, especially in township and rural areas, we don't have schools that cater for autistic children. And we see the statistics. There's more and more diagnoses that are steered towards in that direction, but there isn't intervention on national level to say, okay, we are catering these kids in this particular manner in the mainstream vicinities and also in the facilities that are made particularly for them. Can we get more appraisals on how the department is ensuring that it caters for the growth in the ratio, and also providing support for the training of the staff to be able to provide adequate support and adequate teaching to children with special needs in special needs schools, and how the department is able to is planning to increase the number of staff that cater for those particular needs. Thank you so much, Chairperson.